well, welcome everybody. My name is Ilaria Pesco, and I'm the Executive Director for ASI. And so ASI is co-sponsoring this event with UPD today, and so I'm here helping. And so we're just very excited for all of you to join us for our first chat with the chief. And Chief Williamson from UPD and a bunch of folks from UPD are here. And really here is an opportunity for our campus community really to engage with UPD, ask questions, and those things that you've always wanted to. Chief will start off with a little bit of a presentation, just kind of sharing some of the resources and some of the things that UPD is doing on campus. And then we'll just open it up for anyone to be able to ask questions. Similar to how we run things in ASI, what you're going to do is you're going to type your question in the chat, and when we get to the Q&A, I'll go ahead and read those out. And so again, if you have any other comments or things, you can put those in the chat. And so I am going to turn it over to Chief Williamson.
Thanks, Laurie, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, and thanks for joining us. This is just another step for University Police to reach out to the campus. If you've heard me talk before with this whole COVID thing, we don't get out. We don't get to attend events. We don't get to work events. And so it's really hard to get out and talk to people and just informally talk or even formally talk. So this was just another idea that I learned from another campus, and with President Vanessa's help and ASI, they were supportive of us trying to do this. So this is our venture of just trying to reach out to the campus community, allow you to give us ideas, ask questions, just give us any feedback. With the ultimate goals, we want everybody to feel, number one, invited, welcoming, and safe and secure on our campus. And everybody knows we have 23 campuses in this university system, and every campus is different. So we're focusing on Bakersfield. We can't forget about what's going on in our community and across our nation, but we want to focus on taking care of our campus and everybody that's on our campus or that visits our campus. So with that, again, as I mentioned, I'm going to ask President Vanessa to say a few words, and I'm going to ask Mike Lukens from the President's office to also say a few words. But I can't thank ASI enough. For many, many years, I've been going to ASI meetings on a regular basis and sharing information and hearing feedback from them. And this is no different. Under Vanessa's leadership this year, we've even done a little bit more. And so we appreciate their support, their cooperation, and their advice as we move forward. So with that, President Vanessa, please.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Chat with the Chief. I would like to foremost say thank you to Chief Williamson and the UPD team for hosting this event and collaborating with ASI. I think it's really important to have students be able to reach UPD and really share their perspective. And it really says a lot to have such a proactive chief to lead UPD. So with that being said, I'm excited to hear what students have to say and see if there's any way we can improve the campus. So with that being said, I will pass this back to you, Chief.
Thank you very much. And again, the support from the President's office under President Zelensky is foremost in her administration is the safety of our campus in one form or another. Certainly we're fighting COVID right now, but that's still part of the campus safety, but also public safety, law enforcement is one of the prime aspects of us being able to provide a very conducive, safe atmosphere for our educational processes. And representing the President's office today, Mike Lukens is able to join us. So please, Mike, if you'd like to say a few words. As soon as you get unmuted.
Thank you, Chief. I usually don't get unmuted, so I appreciate the opportunity. I also want to thank the Chief, President Vanessa, ASI, and I know I can speak for the President in saying how much she appreciates and I appreciate this opportunity and how hard people are working and how intentional UPD is and students are in engaging and interacting. That I know I go to ASI meetings and there's a candid back and forth between the chief and students, and I see that every day with all of the officers on PD. So this is a great opportunity for you to ask questions, to bring up issues that you want to talk with the chief about it, and just know that we have something special going here on this campus. That I think this is a very good relationship that we have between students and PD, where we can discuss these issues like this and make sure that we're all having an opportunity to communicate. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Let me just, for those that I have not had the pleasure of meeting, let me just give you just a little bit of my background. I've been on this campus now as the chief of police, director of public safety, which, let me explain, I'm also the emergency manager and the director of parking. So good, suffice to say, since February, I've been wearing my emergency manager's hat along with several of us on campus, more than I've really been wearing my chief's hat, but neither one go away, but they play hand in hand. But so those are my three main responsibilities is the chief of police, emergency manager, director of public safety. I've been here now for 10 and a half years on this campus, but I have both my degrees from this campus and my master's in public administration. Then I was fortunate enough to come back and be an adjunct professor for, it's either 10, 11, or 12 years. I kind of lost count, but when I made chief, I was able to come out and still teach 1 year, but the job was a little bit more demanding than what my previous job was. And so I had to give up teaching so I could spend more time being the chief of police. My prior career, I spent over 32 years at the Kern County Sheriff's Office here locally. I worked almost all the different divisions between jails and courts and patrol. I was a city of Wasco contract police chief for several years. I worked detectives. I was fortunate to work robbery homicide for 8 or 9 years, and I went back to patrol. I worked in community resources division and started a new division there. And then I went all the way up to administration and such. And I made my way up to the rank of undersheriff, which is second in command of the sheriff's office. Before I had the opportunity to come out here, I did that almost a little over 5 years, I believe, before I had an opportunity to test for this position and come out here and take the chief's job. So it's been a great ride for me, and this is a whole new chapter in my profession of being on a university campus, because as we'll talk about later, it's certainly a unique policing atmosphere on a university campus, and we recognize that and we try to adapt to it. Certainly different than any municipal or county sheriff's office that's either in California or probably across this nation. So just in short is we have a lot of different mottos that we've kind of framed in our police department, and a couple that I'll just share with you is our officers work on service above expectation. We want to provide the best service we can. And the other one is compliance versus enforcement. It's not all about, just taking people to jail or not. It's about providing a service to the campus. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But in order to further it, I'd like to introduce Sergeant Veronica Corona, one of the UPD sergeants. I'm going to ask her she has about a 5-8 minute presentation of just an overview. If you've seen it, please bear with us. But for those that are not familiar with UPD, please, it gives us all the services that we use, and then I'll come back and add a little bit more onto it, and then we'll open it up for questions and comments. I'm trying not to be the center of attention, but as our opening meeting, I just want to kind of give us a good foundation, a basis, so people understand what UPD does and what we've been doing, and then see where we can take it from there. So with that, Veronica, I'd ask you to go ahead and take it and with the presentation, please.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Sergeant Veronica Corona, and I have been with the University Police Department for, it's going to be 3 years. Our department is currently formed by 15 sworn police officers that includes corporals, sergeants, a lieutenant, and our chief of police. We also have parking officers, community service officers, dispatchers, and administrative personnel. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and investigate crimes that occur on our campus. But most importantly, we are here to provide and ensure the safety of our students and our entire campus community. To ensure that safety, we have over 40 emergency phones located throughout campus that can be utilized for anyone who needs immediate police assistance. You will be connected to one of our campus dispatchers who will send the university police officers to assist the caller, which we have an immediate response. We typically arrive within 2 minutes. That's pretty quick. There's also an information. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. You're still on the first slide. We haven't been able
Oh,
to
I'm
see the
sorry.
other slides. No, it's okay.
This is why you're better at this. All right, give me a second here. Okay, here we, can you see that now? Are you able to see that?
Yeah.
If you move to the next slide. Because on our end, I'm only seeing the University Police Department, like the beginning of the PowerPoint.
Still seeing the beginning?
Yeah, it still shows the beginning.
Oh, there we
There you
go.
go.
There you go.
Okay. So yes, we have to ensure that safety. We have over 40 emergency phones located throughout the campus that can be utilized at any time if anyone needs immediate police assistance. You will be connected to one of our campus dispatchers who will send the officers to respond. And like I mentioned, we usually arrive within 2 minutes, so it's pretty quick. There's also an information dial if you need any other assistance that does not require an emergency response. Again, so sorry. So some of the services that we provide are, we have escort services. We will walk you from class to class, to your vehicle or dorms if at any time you feel unsafe. We are also trained in first aid, CPR, and carry AEDs with us as well. We can also request for an ambulance if you require hospitalization. We also respond to fires on campus with the assistance of the fire department. Cable services. If you ever get a dead car battery, you can call us and we'll provide you with the cable service at no charge anytime. We are also the main department for the lost and found. In case you ever lose your phone or any other property, you can always call the University Police Department and ask about your property or report any found property as well. We also register your bicycle and provide you with a free U-lock if you wish to do so. What we typically do is take a photograph and provide you with the registration number in case of a theft. We also have the RAP program, which stands for Rape Aggression Defense, that teaches women self-defense against predators. We typically hold it at the beginning of each semester, but with COVID right now, we haven't had them. Okay, so we also have the community service officers that I mentioned in the beginning. But again, with COVID, we don't have the CSOs right now during this time. We do have our parking officers here. Let's see. Play it safe, skip a space. Also, if you come to campus, make sure that you skip a space when you're in the parking lots, just for your safety, our safety. Okay. And so in case of an emergency on campus, you will get 3 notifications quickly followed by one another. And that will be a voice message, followed by an email, followed by a text message. So this is important that you provide the university with your correct phone number and your email so that you can get these immediately after an emergency on campus first. Let's see. We also do a live scan, which Hilda typically is the one who handles those. So you can call, make an appointment, and she's available Mondays and Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 12. And right now with COVID, it's important that you do schedule an appointment if you do need a live scan done. And because our lobby is close as well, you could just give us a call directly and we'll take care of you. Active shooter. This is a great video. If you ever get time to watch it, it's about a 10-minute video. It shows you how to stay safe, what to do in case of an active shooter situation. And we train about 2 to 3 times a year on this. So even though we are about community policing, we do a lot of training in active shooting. So if we ever do have an unfortunate moment, we are well prepared for this. So just make sure that you copy the link if you get to watch that.
Veronica, can I just say that is Freddie right there?
That's Freddie right there.
That's one the gentleman closest to us is one of our officers, Freddie Reyes from UPD. This was a joint training session that we did it with everybody, but that's one of our officers.
Yes, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of our training, you know, it's hands-on. So we get to have a good time training as well. Good training.
And if you forget to copy the link, you can just go to the UPD tab off the CSUB webpage, and it's right on the front page, the video.
Yes. All right. And then this is all of our contact information here. So emergencies, you can dial 911, or you can dial 654-2111 to directly call us in case of an emergency. If you dial 911, it's gonna probably go to BPD, and then by the time they receive the call, we get it. So there's a delay. So the quickest response is to dial 654-2111 for our emergency here. Non-emergency 654-2677. So you can just write these numbers down. And again, we investigate crimes on campus. So at any time, if you need to report anything that's occurred or occurring at the time, give us a call. And we have the emergency phones as well. You don't have to have your cell phone with you. And that's about it, I believe. And if you have any questions for me or Chief, he can answer those for you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Veronica. I'll go ahead and start talking while she's getting out of that. Some of the other things that we mentioned, we use a community policing strategy, and I know that comes with a lot of different types of definitions from different parts of the country, but we try to participate with the campus and be part of the campus and support the campus for the educational process and some of the other activities. I'll just run through several of them if anybody's got any questions. When we're on a normal campus schedule, we do coffee with a cop at least once a semester, where you can just come over and ask questions, share a cup of coffee, have a donut. No pun intended with donuts. What's the easiest thing we can do to have a donut? But coffee and donuts, our officers, Veronica was one and a couple others. I think it was a challenge from, I don't know if it was ASI or somebody, and did a TikTok little video that we put on the air. We played volleyball. We're not volleyball players, but we put our police department volleyball team together and have played in a couple tournaments against ASI, some of the clubs and organizations on campus. Had a lot of fun. We participated in the first ever SRC triathlon. Our officers did. And two of our teams placed first and third. We're at Oktoberfest resource fairs. We weren't able to do the Halloween scavenger hunt this year, but we started that, and we did that for 2 or 3 years before this year. As already mentioned, we do active shooter training, not only with our officers, but we also have a presentation that's available. I mentioned earlier, I attend ASI meetings at least once a month or whenever they call me. We also have, we really promote foot patrol, bike patrol, cart patrol for our officers and get them out of the cars. Right now we have teams doing the law enforcement torch run in support of the Special Olympics, a fundraiser for Special Olympics. And then mentioned the bike registration, RAD. And then we also have a limited role in helping with the food distributions by providing the logistics. So those are just some of the things that we do. And I want to go over real quickly just some quick information to add to maybe some discussion, and I'll open it up for any questions or anything. So as Ilaria mentions, please, if you have any questions or comments, please put them into the chat so we can get them out there. But from our policing activities on campus, probably, and I did not go back and get the exact stats, but I think I'm going to be really, really close. Our arrests, we do make arrests on campus. Last year, before COVID started, we had a big spike in our arrests, but please, I don't want to take anybody off guard here. If we arrest 1 or 2 students a year, that's like really high. We don't arrest students, staff, or faculty very often, but what we do arrest are people that come on our campus with warrants or predators that are trying to steal off our campus. And that skyrocketed a couple of years ago to where our normal arrests were around 15 or 20 per year. And I believe we were up around 40 or 50 during that time. And some of those were felonies and some were misdemeanors and such. And that also is people that had warrants. So we do make arrests, and as mentioned, our officers are 24-hour peace officers. It doesn't matter whether we're on duty, so we have full police powers. But our arrests are limited, but we do make them. Some of the issues that are going on across the nation are excessive use of force. We're real fortunate on this campus because since I've been here in 10 and a half years and to testing other of my colleagues' memories, nobody ever remembers an excessive use of force complaint on our campus. We have very few, even use of force on this campus. And when we do, and it is, it's inevitable that every now and then we might have it, we have quite a review system where the field supervisor, and let me back up, keeping in mind that all of our officers, except the lieutenant and I, wear body cameras. And so there's a policy when they activate them. So when we have a use of force on this campus, whether there's a complaint or not, the field supervisor reviews the use of force, and then it gets forwarded to and offers an opinion. It gets forwarded to the lieutenant, where he reviews it and gives an opinion, and then it finally goes to me to see if I agree with everything. So the footage is reviewed, the reports are reviewed, everything's reviewed. We want to make sure we're so transparent that people are sick of us trying to be transparent. I'd much rather be that way than people think that we're trying to hide something, because that's not the case. So we take all of that serious. Use of force are serious, but sometimes it may be needed in order to effect an arrest. And that's where we want to have the checks and balances. And our officers continually train in that. Keep in mind that when we say use of force, that's anything from going hands-on above the normal process to just put handcuffs on somebody. Our officers carry the tasers, pepper spray, batons, and such. And we've had tasers now for right at 5 years. And thank goodness, I'm knocking on wood, we have not been forced to deploy a taser. The only time I remember pepper spray, and I could be wrong on this, was 10 years ago when we had a tragic event on our campus where a young lady was shot. The officer that was on duty by himself that night was in the middle of a big brawl, and he was pepper spraying, trying to control the brawl when the shooting took place. We made some changes over that. We don't have officers working solo patrol anymore because we've been able to improve staffing and such. But again, we've never had to, I don't know, nobody in the UPD ever remembers a baton strike in all the years that we've been around. We have people here that have been here for at least 20 years, and nobody can remember the times that we even had to use a baton. So again, I'm not saying we will never have to use a baton or a taser, but we're pretty fortunate. Our officers are pretty talented, and our goal is to get people to comply. And then if we're forced to, then they talk people into complying at that point also. Very few complaints overall annually. If we get one complaint, it's unusual for whether they think the officer was rude or out of line. We get very few complaints. I try to explain to everybody, I use an 85 or 90 to 10 or 15. In other words, 85% of the time or 90% of the time, we're a support role for the educational process on this campus. The other 10 or 15% is when we play an active law enforcement role. And that's something like a critical event or an active shooter, God forbid, or something like that. And I think we all expect that our officers will be able to respond and respond well to any type of event. I would not want anything less from our officers, and neither should you. So we try to keep both sides of those edges sharp, where our officers are involved in the campus, and we do a lot of these cops or community policing strategies, but at the same time, they're highly trained and they're in good enough shape that we can respond to a critical event, whatever that may be. We have a lot of high expectations for our officers. We have core values that talk about, being fair, impartial, and respect everybody, along with a bunch of other ones. We also just created an advisory council. It's a University Police Advisory Council that has a cross section of the campus on it. And we're looking at being, again, as transparent as we can. I see Professor Gov on there. I've met with Academic Senate. I met with CFA. I met with a lot of people. ASI was instrumental in helping us get that off the ground. So again, I say that we don't have anything to hide. We want everybody to understand what we do, and then everybody work together to continue to provide the safest campus. Our Clery reports, those are the annual reports we have to do that go back for 3 years. Will probably demonstrate we're the lowest campus or tied for the lowest crime rate of any of the CSU campuses statewide. Something to be proud of. It's not just UPD, but it's all of us working together. So again, those are, when we do hiring, let me finish with this, is we take it real serious. And I've learned a lot since I've been here on what I'm looking for when I have the final decision on how to hire. And I think we made some fantastic choices of the people we hired. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, university policing is very unique. It's different. You have to understand that, or else we're not going to be successful. So we look at it, and then we continue to train. And I'll finish with this, is because of all the things that have happened across our nation, and not that our officers necessarily have been involved in that, they haven't been, but we wanted to make sure that we did our part. So we've refreshed our training by doing de-escalation training, some race and diversity training. We have some in-person classes if COVID will allow it. Right after the beginning of the year, we've had to postpone them already twice on some of them, to bring people in to talk about some of those social aspects of policing. So we continue to try to improve our ability to provide the services. So with that, I'm going to shut up. And hopefully I don't see any questions or any comments, but I'll open it up and see if anybody has anything for us that we can answer, any comments you may have, please.
Okay, so the first question, Chief, comes from Miles. He wants to know if you can explain your background in policing and how you became chief here at the university, and why you left law enforcement to come here to CSUB.
Great question. I did a little bit. I had a great opportunity at the Kern County Sheriff's Office. I served in a lot of different roles. And again, I started as a deputy and worked in the jails, and then went to the courts, and then went to patrol. Eventually I worked in detectives for numerous years, went back to patrol. I loved it. But as I was able to advance up the chain in promotions in the sheriff's office, when I made commander, I had the opportunity to create a new division under Sheriff Carl Sparks, the Community Resources Division, where I got to put officers on school campuses, elementary school campuses. I got to deal with a lot of the community in a lot of different ways, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I went to detectives as a commander, then I went to Metropolitan Patrol, and eventually I got promoted to chief deputy position in charge of detentions. And eventually from there, I was promoted to undersheriff, which was, as I mentioned, the second in command. But what's interesting is the higher I got up the chain, the less I got to deal with the community. And you can tell I love to talk. I try to keep my mouth shut, but I love to talk, and I love to visit, and I love to brag on our department. And so I found myself missing that. So after about 5 years being the undersheriff for two different sheriffs, this position came open. And because not only was I attended school out here, my wife was an employee here at Cal State for over 20 years and retired from here. Both of my kids have their degrees from CSUB. I was here, I was an adjunct. I wanted an opportunity to come out and provide the experience and the knowledge that I had from my career and apply it to CSUB. And that's how I came out here. And I was fortunate enough to be selected a while ago, back in 2010. And we went from, I believe it was, Mari might have to help me, we had 9 or 10 officers back then. And now we have 16 authorized positions in the department. So we could bring the department up to what I would call industry standards for adequate staffing to respond to calls. And I think Sergeant Corona mentioned it, that our response time to critical incident calls or priority 1 calls is right around 2 minutes or less. And that's the way we want to keep it. If you call for help, we want to be there. So I hope that answers, Miles, the question.
Okay, next, Chief, is from Spencer Shepard. Spencer says, I'm with the runner, and my question is, some students have voiced a need for clarification with what facilities are open on campus for students to access. So is there facility access still for students? And what would a student need to do in order to visit the campus?
Great question. It's limited. I'll be honest with you. Absolutely, it's limited. Right now, it's the main ability for our students to come to campus is if you have a lab or required class that is face-to-face. That's been our primary goal from the academic side. We have not been able to open up SRC. You can come, most of our medicine for the Student Health Center is through telemedicine, but they do have the ability to come in and see a doctor under certain situations. Athletics is very limited. They have very limited access. So during this time of COVID, and as everybody knows, as our cases in Kern County are increasing, unfortunately, we want to make sure that we limit access to the campus for everybody's health, not only the individuals, but the campus as well, so we can keep those academic classes that are needed, the priorities for the need for people to graduate, we can keep them functioning. The only other one that we have available are those students that are on campus. We have a study room available in the lower wing of the library. I forgot the room number. I drew a blank. I'll think of it when I don't need to, but that's also available for limited use with proper distancing and such. The bookstore is still open. And then there are certain appointments that you can make with different entities, but they're very, very limited. So there's not a lot that's really just open and available for our campus right now. We hope that as things improve, and especially when a vaccine comes out, the hopes are that we'll be able to start allowing students to come back on campus. And certainly we miss everybody. I'm only on campus 2 or 3 mornings a week because I'm still trying to follow the same protocol and the same precautions as everybody else.
So next, Chief, was a comment from Sandra Bozarth. She said this presentation would be great to include at new faculty and new student orientation as its own session. She said, not sure if either orientation goes into this much detail for our new folks, but she really enjoyed it.
And thank you. And we used to call it, what was it, CSUB 101? That's been a few years back. But we also, we are happy to present this, and that's what the PowerPoint was made for, is anybody that requests it. I know Hilda does it, Veronica does it, Mari does it, I've done it, the lieutenant has done it. We're open to any of that. So if anybody would like that presentation, or if you have a need for active shooter training, that's a little bit longer. That's about 90 minutes, but we can also try to abbreviate it. But please feel free to give me a call or reach out to anybody in the department and we'll accommodate you. And I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Next, Miles said, Officer Corona, aren't you a veteran?
No, I'm not. I'm not a veteran.
There you go, Miles. Okay, so next is, let's see, from Aaron Wan. Will CSUB host a COVID testing site again, similar to the previous weeks? I thought it was very beneficial for our community and for our students.
Thanks, Aaron, and hi, how are you doing? It's been a while since I got to see you, but the answer is yes. I'm working on it now. And in fact, when we get completed here, I'm going to contact public health and see if they have an answer for me. My hopes are that I was able to bring them out. I'm bringing them out for one day next week. Right now, it's been challenging because of the amount of paperwork that is required for us to bring it out. And I voiced my opinion to the chancellor's office. So if I'm not here next week, you'll know why. No, I'm just teasing. But there's a tremendous amount of paperwork that needs to be done before we could do that. But I'm hoping that we are able to pull it off, and we will get it out as soon as I get it confirmed. But I'm shooting for one day next week will be another free testing site, and we'll do it in the same location out in Lot I.
Hey, Chief, the next question is about training. So what kind of training do you and your officers do every year?
You know what, I'm going to see, Kenny, Lieutenant Williams is our training manager. Do you want to kind of cover as much as you can, Kenny, with the post and then all the additional training that we try to get our officers to? You're not coming through, Kenny.
Do we need to unmute him?
No. Looks like he may be having a malfunction.
So we have to do the post training that has to be gone through every 2 years. So we basically do like the high liability type things, vehicle driving, uses of force, and like firearms training that has to be done by every officer in the state of California every 2 years on rotation. So we do that. On top of that, anything like firearms training, we do at least once a semester, if not more. Active shooter training, we do twice a semester. And then on top of that, we try to attend as much as the chief was saying, de-escalation training, thing like that. Was it last year or 2 years ago when California Post made a recommendation that all field training officers go through an 8-hour course on mental health de-escalation. Well, instead of it just being our field training officers, every one of our officers went through that same training, which is way above what most other departments have been doing. In addition to that, I think there's several of us that have done the 40-hour crisis management course as well. So and what else do we have to do yearly?
Mari, when you say post, what does that mean? Because
I'm sorry.
That's an
I'm sorry.
acronym. So most people
Cop talk. I didn't even introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sergeant Mari Gonzalez, working from home today. Post is the California Police Officer Standards and Training Division. It's basically a branch under the state of California that governs the standards for police officers, how they train, the minimum standards, and gives us recommendations on what we should be doing. So I know across the country and in the news, you hear a lot of things about recommendations about reformations for police and things that we should be doing. If you look at some of the recommendations that posts make, it's basically a lot of the things that California already does. So yeah, like I said, it gives us a minimum standard of what we should have as far as when we go through the academy, how many weeks we need to have in training once we graduate the academy with like a field training officer, and then how long of a probationary period once we complete training with another officer, how long we are on probation until we're effectively given the blessing to go ahead as solo patrol officers. And then everything from then on out, any additional training that they recommend, all has to be recommended through post. And then we can go above and beyond that as a department to seek others.
And I'll just add, we have our own range master because as the Sarge mentioned, we try to qualify quarterly. And so we have our own range master. We're trying to, before we can officially ride bikes and be covered, we have to have a post-certified bike training or a patrol bike class. So everything that we do is kind of under the umbrella of the Peace Officer Standards of Training, but also now that we have been able to get a little bit of additional funding for our department, we're trying to send people to different types of classes that are not required above and beyond for either career development or campus development. And so that's been a challenge because a small department, we can't send everybody at one time. And the other thing that we've done for our training is we have also joined up with the current high school district police. And so that way we're co-sponsoring and bringing trainers in to Bakersfield so our officers don't have to travel out of town. And then we're able to fill up a class between us and the high school police. It makes it cheaper and we bring in a lot of training. And then they also have trainers in self-defense, defensive tactics and such that we can use for free. So we try to be creative, try to save money, but at the same time, we try to put as much training on our officers as we can and make it worth the time and effort. So their time's not wasted.
Thank you, Chief. So our next question is from Spencer. He says, Chief Williamson, how often can we expect to have chat with the chief?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to kind of pose it back to you. I would love to do it like once a month, but we have about 30 people on. So if you have any feedback, I don't know, I don't see them on here, I guess, but please let us know, because if this is beneficial, I would make myself available once a month. I don't think twice a month is worthy of it. You guys will get tired of me. But I think once a month could be beneficial. Once every other month, I don't want to bore you to death, and I don't want people to dread anything, coming from UPD. So I'm open to suggestions. I will tell you, we had the same question with the brand new Police Advisory Council. So at least initially, we're going to meet for the first 2 or 3 or 4 months. Once a month, and then we'll probably go to, Vanessa, are you still on once a quarter or twice a semester, I think is probably where we're going to end up. Am I close on that?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm open to what what does the campus want? I want to make myself and the department available to meet your needs and your desires. And if we want to change weekdays, we can, in order to accommodate people's different classes. So any feedback would certainly be appreciated. You can either, if you don't do it today, you can, and I'm going to volunteer again, ASI, you can get it through ASI, because they will provide me feedback also, because this is kind of where the whole thing started, is doing this in conjunction with ASI.
Okay, and so with that said, just so you know, for everyone on, if you do have comments for the chief, and you always can come on the first Friday of every month. Chief comes to the ASI meetings, and you can talk in public comment, and then Chief can be able to address you during his time with us. The next question, really for you, Chief, is from David Gov. He says, Chief Williamson shared with CFA some comments on diversity amongst UPD. Perhaps this audience would also be interested in hearing that.
Great. Thanks, Professor. Yeah. When I got to visit with CFA, kind of did it the same thing. Currently, we have, as I mentioned, we have 16 sworn positions. However, I'm having to carry a vacant position right now for salary savings. But I have to stay at a higher level because I cannot break it down into individuals. But suffice it to say, well, the way I broke it down is we have 6 Caucasian in our sworn ranks, 6 Caucasian and nine non-Caucasian officers. And those are different. It's very diverse. But several of our officers, we are trying to count them up today, are bilingual to be able to speak Spanish and English. And so we are trying to, not intentionally, but out of just the luck, I guess I would say. But when I've been hiring over the last several years, or since I've ever started, I hire for quality of officer. I don't hire for a specific person, so to speak. But we've been very fortunate that we've hired a very diverse university police department that pretty closely represents our campus community. So I'm very proud of that. I wished I could take credit for it, but it's just the way the test came out. And we were very, very fortunate to get the quality of people. Our dispatchers, we have 5 of them and 1 part-time, and they're 3 and 3 Caucasian, 3 and 3 non. And then our support staff, there's 2 of them, and they're both non-Caucasian. And then our parking officers are both Caucasian. So that's kind of the breakdown of the diversity that we have at the University Police Department. And that's not counting CSOs, our community service officers, because we don't have any hired right now. So I can't give you those numbers. So I see David on the screen. David, is that what you were referring to? Okay, thanks.
So next is from Sandra Bozarth. She says, the active shooter training is awesome. We've done it for the staff and faculty that work in the library. She said, I highly suggest this as a staff and faculty training for departments or groups on campus. It was a great training to help us think about how to be prepared for things in the library and classroom and lab settings. Next is from Miles. As collaborators with BPD, do you find any conflict within jurisdictions?
Great question, Miles. Not necessarily. Our campus, we have defined that, or we've clarified that we want our officers to stay on our campus. Unlike other campuses up and down the state, not all of them, but a lot of them, they have an agreement with their local police departments or sheriff's department that they could go patrol the neighborhoods around their campus, and they have that mutual agreement. Not that the city has denied us that, but we've never had the need, and we've never really had asked the question. So our officers, we're committed to staying on our campus, with the exception is if there's an emergency right off campus. We've had numerous occasions, unfortunately, where there's been some bad traffic accidents on the surrounding streets around there. Our officers will roll on that. Absolutely. If it comes down to public safety, our officers will roll. The other situation is if we hear an officer or somebody that's in need right off our campus within a short distance, let's say the marketplace or across the, in that parking lot across Stockdale Highway or someplace close, absolutely our officers are going to roll on it. However, each sergeant and the 2 that are on tonight understand that we're going to roll on the emergencies, but at the same time, we need to take care of our campus also. So they're going to have that decision on whether to roll all of our resources, part of our resources, and how we're going to do it. With the underlying goal is we need to make sure we provide public safety wherever it's needed. And if it's close to the campus, we'll roll on it in an emergency. If not, we're going to focus on our campus. So there's really no conflict with our jurisdictions. Certainly suffice it to say that the way the city handles calls is different than the way we do. We have time to deal with it. That's where the service above expectation comes from, when they may be going from call to call. I mean, we did it to sheriff's office when I was there under my prior career. But here we kind of have a different mindset. So I don't see any jurisdictional or any conflicts with the jurisdiction. We work very well with them, and I'll take this minute to say we do have an agreement with them that they will come onto our campus to help us when needed, but that's on our call on the campus. And the times that we call them in is if we have a major crime or something that we need forensics. We're not set up to do that. We're a small agency. So if we have a need for resources above our ability, then our agreements with the Bakersfield Police Department, and rarely, but it has happened, do we call them in, and then we assign a liaison, an officer, usually one of our corporals, to liaison with them as they help us in an investigation or a situation.
Okay, if anyone has any other questions, you can go ahead and put those in the chat. But Chief, I don't see any other questions at this time.
Okay, well, wait a second and see if there's anything else or anything. I can't think of anything else except, again, to kind of go back over. Our goal is to be out there. So again, the winter time's a little bit different, and I know people aren't on campus, but we really do try to push the fact that we have officers out on foot patrol and bike patrol and cart patrol, so we can talk to people and visit with them and support the students getting a fantastic education and such with the faculty. So at any point, I urge you, if you have any questions, comments, or whatever, please give me a call, email me, call the department, talk to Lieutenant, talk to one of the sergeants, talk to any of our officers. We want to provide the service. We also understand that some people may come from a different, part of the state that maybe they don't know their police officers or their deputy sheriffs, or maybe they have a different interpretation. I will just say and finish up. I mentioned it and I can't say it enough. University policing is unique, and our officers understand that. So we want to provide that unique policing atmosphere that everybody feels welcomed, everybody feels comfortable. But at the same time, I want everybody on this campus to feel comfortable that if they need us, our officers are highly trained, very well trained, highly professional, that they'll be there to respond and handle the situation. And again, do the service above expectation and provide that service. So I'm proud to be the chief out here. If not, I wouldn't be here for 10 and a half years. We still have things to do. And again, what keeps me moving is seeing people like Vanessa and the ASI board members. I know there's other ASIs. Aaron was last year. The support that we get from them and their energy and stuff keep us moving. And again, we're always looking for new ideas, different things to try. So if you have any ideas or thoughts, goodness sakes, please get them my way, because if we haven't thought about it, let's try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But whatever we can do to make our campus safer and better and more welcoming and inviting to everybody, that's our goal. So with that, I think we're pretty close. We still have a few minutes, don't we, Ilaria?
Hey, Chief, can I add one thing?
Sure.
Just touching on the educational component, and something I think we always stress when we do get the opportunity to still do those CSUB 101 type presentations, is that we invite our staff and faculty and our students to ask us the questions that they may have about law enforcement. If they're not comfortable asking it in a group setting, we're always walking around, we're always available, and they can ask us questions. Even if they have just a question about the basic equipment on their car, how to, make sure that their lighting is proper and that something on their car doesn't have some kind of modification that they're not aware of that may be illegal, or how to make their house safer. We can take the time to sit and explain that to an individual, because we aren't call to call. That's the kind of stuff that we're here for. We are here also to be, part of the educational component of things. And so we welcome those questions. And even if they're the hard questions, we'll answer them.
Yeah, and I'd like to mention, just in the few minutes we have left, is several of our officers are currently taking classes I know Veronica's taking classes right now, and one of our night officers are taking classes on campus. I've been there. Many of us, I know the lieutenant's got his degrees from here also. Many of us have taken classes. So we've been in those chairs before. Mine's been many years ago, but still the idea is we've been there, and we try to put ourselves in your shoes and try to understand it. And so I really support our officers having degrees, especially if they're coming from CSUB. That's really cool. And a lot of them are doing that in order to further develop their own careers, but also just to get the education. And it's a tremendous help, in my opinion, that officers that have those degrees and such. So I just wanted to mention that. And the other thing that I'll mention is just in closing, we strive as the budget permits to get our officers the best equipment to provide the service to the campus. So again, even though I talk a lot about those things that sound offensive, they're not really meant to be offensive, but it's hope we never have to use them, but they train in them constantly. And you'll see in the cars as you know, if you look at our patrol cars, yes, we do have a rifle. Yes, there's a 40 millimeter launcher in there. But again, we've never had to use them. They get pulled very, very few times, during the course of their job. But those tools are there in order to protect everybody on campus. And so we strive really hard to provide the best level of equipment for everybody in order to provide the highest level of service to our campus. So it's challenging, especially in these tough budget times, but we're surviving. And again, I appreciate everybody's support and such on everyday matters. And if there's anything else that's bothering you, please let us know. Any final questions, Ilaria?
I don't see any.
I think we'll wrap it up, but I want to make sure, I want to thank Hilda and Mari for helping coordinate this. Ilaria, special thanks for helping produce this, so to speak, and with what you do with ASI on a regular basis. And Vanessa, you, and I know there's several board members on there. Again, thank you. I don't know if Mike Lukens is still on behalf of the president, but I just want to say thanks everybody, with David being supportive under CFA. And I don't know if there's anybody with the academic senate, but everybody's been really supportive of the police department. I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody at UPD, and please let us know if there's anything we can do. And I think with that, if no final questions, thank you everybody. And if there's any feedback about when you want to meet again, please let us know, and then we'll get it out and announce it again in plenty of time. So thank you everybody. Please have a safe evening and enjoy your Thanksgiving. Thank you.